us today. And we've got Andrew Gautron here who's going to lead this session. And I'm Kirk Deininger. We're both with Autocene, and we're excited about what it is that we have to share today. Andrew?
Yeah, definitely. So welcome everybody. If you are a first time joiner here, this is actually a special webinar because we're going to be showcasing really kind of what is accomplishable with the platform at scale. And we're going to be going through a really unique example today done for the Designer Selection Board of Massachusetts. If you've kind of viewed our past webinar series, you may have noticed those smaller applications or smaller application suites. Well, in terms of that, today you can think of the things that we're showing today as being 10 or 20 times the size of those previous applications there. So just to start off the conversation, if you're new to Autocene, so number one, Autocene is a no-code platform. That means that inherently what you see today was not developed or designed using any traditional coding methods that you may leverage internally in your IT organizations or that you may contract out for specific consultants or point solutions, right? With that being said, Autocene is also web-based. So everything that you're going to be seeing here today is going to be on a web browser. That means that these applications can pretty much go wherever your users go. So mobile devices, tablets, and of course their PCs or their MacBooks browsers, right? Now to talk about the example that we're going to be showing today. So the Designer Selection Board of Massachusetts has a unique procurement and bidding system that really has a lot of very niche components that they've built and grown, but a lot of what you can see today can be extrapolated or used as a framework for other procurement, bidding, or modules that we may show, right? Things like onboarding, things like evaluations, help desk tickets, document management, so on and so forth. Now, to start our journey here, we're currently on the landing page of the DSB's development environment here. And you can see, much like any other web page or kind of online tool that you may use, there's login elements behind the scenes here. So for the DSB, they use a traditional login method that's hosted within the Autocene platform. So all user accounts are kind of attributed to that environment, right? Now to start off our journey, we're going to start off by saying, let's say that I'm a new contractor, a new architecture firm, or maybe just I'm my own consultant that wants to participate in the bidding process of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for a certain project. Now, I don't have an account, so how do we get a new account in here? So we have this button here that says, I don't have an account. And what you can do is you can enter in your email here. I'm just going to use email@email.com. And we're going to click enter here. And what that's going to do is the Autocene environment is going to create a guest account for that person to interact with a couple of different modules right off the bat. So there's two options for a new guest user to partake in. People can submit references for participants inside this system. So I may have done a project before. People may submit references against that project and how well I did. However, I'm a new firm that wants to enroll and begin bidding on certain projects here. So what I'll do is I'll go to the enrollment application here, and it's going to walk me through what kind of agency I am and how to begin to onboard myself here. So I could be a designer, and based on that, I might be an employee of an architecture firm or an organization that's already in here. So I could find that group and make a request to join that group. However, I may be an entirely new firm that is not represented. So it's going to ask me to enter in my firm's information. So I could be Firm Inc. and I can put in my tax ID code, right? And my initial profile here. So first name, last name, email address, my login, and of course our password, right? Now, if I was going to create Firm Inc. here, I would be the administrator. So I'd be the first person within this organization, and I would have administration aspects to invite other employees. So you can send out invites to other employees. Or you can have your employees go to the same page and create an account based on that as well. Okay. So let's fast forward a bit. There's some back and forth there. The DSB will get this notification. They'll verify that you are this organization. They'll let you through. And let's say that your organization is then created. Well, what's the next part that you're going to be partaking in this process here? So we're just going to sign in as our development firm here, which is AEO. And the first step that a new organization is going to take is their registration and disclosure. So we talked a little bit about kind of single accounts. So I've logged in as this person here, and I'm the owner of this firm here. Well, we need to set up all the information around this firm. And this is an important aspect because this information is going to be utilized across the entire system, because that may in the past have been used to, say, provide an application or provide documentation over and over again. Well, now that we have this information, we can reuse it in different aspects of the platform. So we'll go to the registration and disclosure here. You can see the design firm setup. It's going to take us to a page where basically we fill out what our firm is all about. So first couple of key indicators is what type of designer we are. Well, in this case, we're an architecture firm and an engineering firm. So we have those two aspects going for us. You could be a landscape architect, or you could be a programmer, so on and so forth. Basically, you're indicating to the system what type of work that you do. The next here is important to the DSB and the Supplier Diversity Office within Massachusetts. This is our diversity category system. So your firm or your organization may fall into one of these categories. Well, you can indicate and select those, and then you can also provide further accreditation behind those category indicators to say that you're this type of diverse firm. This is great because we can begin to track how many diverse firms are partaking in certain bidding processes, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Now, really the core information that's used throughout the entire platform is this core profile information about the organization. And that's one of the strong points of Autocene, is that you're not stuck into how profiles look or how profiles are designed or what they encompass. In this case, the DSB here has set up a profile system to encompass an entire organization. So things like the core business information, experiences, project experience, the ownership levels, so on and so forth. So you can have a profile that really meets the demands of what you're looking to create on that platform, and allow that to be leveraged across each individual module within the Autocene platform. So once I've filled out this information, let's say that I've filled out my logo here. So I'll just click edit just to show you. You can upload new logos, you can change the inputs, type in new information, edit information, all of that, right? Once we've filled this out, our first step is complete. We basically have profiled our organization here, and we can begin interacting with projects and bidding on projects. So let's say that I'm done creating the public or the registration and disclosure and setting that up. I can go to the next part here, which is our public notice search. And really this is the core application within this entire platform, is the public notice search and bidding process. So I'm going to click on that application here. And what that's going to do is that's going to open up all the public notices that have recently gone up. You can see that there's one with a deadline here on the 22nd, but you can scroll through and see what projects were previously open here. So red means that it's closed out. That means that project is done. You can no longer bid on that process. Whereas green means that it's currently open and our deadline date is the 26th or 22nd of December here. Now, there's a lot of different elements that go into this process here. So one of the core things that I want to just highlight as we go through this project that we're going to be viewing and bidding on is the different sections that we're going to be traveling through, and also the availability of instructions to guide the user if they need help at any step. So let's start to bid on a project here. Let's say that we are interested in the study and design for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection renovations, repairs, and upgrades here. Well, the prime service is an engineering firm. Well, I'm an engineering firm. We indicated that in our profile. So this is a great fit for us. We can see that it's the Massachusetts State Police that are the awarding agency here. So let's click view and see what this project's all about. So when we click view here, it's going to bring up the base project summary of what the Massachusetts State Police is looking for. So we're looking for some services, design, repairs, and renovations to basically facilities that are statewide. The contract type is a house doctor. So this is a special type of contract within the DSB system that is geared towards more of maintenance, repair, and renovation, where a traditional project may be a build of, say, a public school or a new hospital. So kind of a start to finish project, where this is more of a contract around renovations, repairs, and that. So you can begin to tailor the system in terms of what type of contracts you may be utilizing or wanting your organizations to bid on. And you can use that business logic to gear it towards different organizations and filter that accordingly so that you're able to provide the opportunity to organizations to bid or engage with those projects.
Hey, Andrew, if I could just jump in for a second. This also is, so with the house doctor, they can select multiple winners, basically. And we'll see some of that, I'm sure, in when we get to the voting piece. But they can have multiple firms that are chosen to be part of this, since it's going to be multiple locations that need the work. And that's part of the house doctor. But if you notice, I just wanted to make a comment here that you notice the way that this is designed, and they have increased, because it's so much easier for the firms to apply. They've gotten a lot more smaller and diverse firms that have applied for these projects. And Andrew, you can tell them about how we've reduced the errors and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been really happy that they've gotten like a 35% increase in the number of diverse firms that have applied for projects.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about kind of current processes now, imagine that we're in another state and that you're a new organization and you want to bid in a project that the state or maybe your local county is putting out. Well, usually you'd have to go to a landing page. You'd have to view that official listing. It may be a document like this that you view out, or you might see that in the local paper or something. Well, once you know that that project is out there, well, how do you begin to apply for it? And that's when you start going through the maze of documents and different things that you need to start to collect to make that formalized bid on the project. Well, what was happening before with the DSB, and I'm sure it's no stranger to other organizations, is that some of these organizations, because they don't have the people power to engage with all the documents or ensure that they have everything, they were being disqualified on errors of basically not providing a certain document or missing elements in their documentation. And that's something that we don't want to do. And that's what Kirk spoke to, is really the power of the system is the ability to guide the user through And you'll see that in the next couple steps here, and ensuring that we're able to let them know what pieces of information that they need to provide so that we don't disqualify them based on a technicality. The goal of these systems really is to find the best organization or person to fulfill that project, right, in a fair and timely manner. So let's say that we're interested in this and we want to move forward here. So I'm going to click continue. That's going to take us to our next step here. Well, we just talked about this. For every project in the designer selection board in Massachusetts, you need to provide a registration and disclosure about your firm's information. Well, guess what? We already filled that information out, so we don't have to worry too much about this, but we can definitely review this information and update it accordingly if you do need to update that. But basically, every project needs this information to bid on it. And I'm just going to confirm that this information is correct here, and we'll continue on in the project. So next is an interesting aspect about this system, because up until this point, you can think of us as we're the lone organization kind of bidding on a project. But really what this platform is about is community and the ability to engage with smaller organizations and the ability to find and engage with organizations that are best met for maybe being a sub-consultant on your project or engaging with your firm or organization to bid on future projects. So let's say that for this, I want to invite some sub-consultants. I'm going to give them 2 weeks to reply to my request. Okay, so I'm going to set 2 weeks for any sub-consultant to reply to my request to engage with me on this project bid. So you can see there's a bunch of different required disciplines here. Because this is a house doctor project, there may be each individual type of discipline engaged with at different facilities, or one facility may have all disciplines kind of engaged in the renovation efforts there. Well, I could be the prime firm on all of these, and my organization could handle that, but maybe I need a hazardous materials consultant. So I might sub-consult that out. I'll click that, and I can find an organization, maybe our air, water, energy engineers here, and select that organization and their point of contact, and I can send that request out. And what that organization will receive is basically a notification in email. So this person here will receive that, and it'll ask them if they want to participate in this project, and they'll either select no or yes, or basically following up with additional information on that. So we basically give that deadline to those sub-consultants to accept that proposal. Well, let's say that we've done that part, we have our sub-consultants on board, we can move on to the application here. Now the application is all the different information that is pertinent to the sub-consultants and the prime team that's going to be engaging with this. If I indicated that each required discipline was going to be handled by my organization, the team leads in that would be already pre-filled out here. And if that sub-consultant said yes, their information would also be pre-filled out here. So that step is handled for us. You can see as we kind of go through here, the red asterisks are going to tell us what information we need to supply. Now the next thing that we need to apply is our resumes. So resumes are really a mixed bag of documents. You have resumes that are PDFs, Word documents, it could even be an Excel sheet, or an actual piece of paper that somebody's wrote on. Well, these resumes, because they're so diverse, what we've done in the system is we've offered them, number one, the ability to use a template for their resumes if they wish, or they can upload their documents right to this application. So they can attach all those resumes right to their project bid, and those will carry along throughout this application process. So let's say that we did that. Next, we're going to go into our evaluations, and this is a huge module within the system, and we'll talk a little bit about this. But evaluations are done post project, and they indicate kind of project experience for your organization. Okay. So at this step in the process, I'm going to find evaluations that best represent my organization and attach that to this project for that experience aspect. So if I say want this construction evaluation to be attached, I can click on that. I can view the scores that were given out in that evaluation and what they, you can see this evaluation's for renovation, repair, and that. So I may want to attach this to this project plan. So I'm going to include that. And it's going to attach that to our application here. And I can, of course, attach upwards of 5 evaluations to go along with my project here. Next is our references. So references, much like evaluations, are an indication of my experience and references from other organizations and their experience with working with my company, right? So I may want to go in and say select this one here, and maybe they gave me a really good score on restoration. So I might want to include this reference in my project bid. And you can see all of these are up front for me to pick and choose, right? So these core aspects about evaluations and references, these are huge parts in representing what this organization's work practice is. And at the DSB here, what we do with these projects after the fact is that each organization fills out their evaluations in regards to completed projects throughout the system. We are also in the effort, and this is still ongoing because there's decades worth of these evaluations, in uploading those evaluations for firms and organizations to use. So the digitization effort is in play there. And there's the ability for organizations to actually mass upload evaluations that they have on hand. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit here. So let's say that we've gone through our entire application here. Well, we're at the end part, which is basically submission. And what it's going to do is it's going to summarize everything that is missing in your application up until that point. So you can see there's pending subconsultants, or there might be pending information that's missing, so on and so forth. You can see certification, documents for resumes, team composition, stuff like that. This is going to let that user know which area that they need to go to and what they need to add in terms of that application. So this is, even though this seems like a streamlined process up until this point, it's a lot of information that these people are inputting. So this may be a living bid that you might be working on for a couple of days here, while we can save this as a draft and work on this later. But this is going to summarize everything that's missing up until that point, so that it ensures that you have everything to make the proper bid. Before we kind of click out of the application process here, is there anything you want to add, Kirk?
Sorry, Andrew, I was on mute there. No, I think you're doing a great job. I just wanted to point out again that how much easier this is, and because the designer selection board has been so successful, other departments have joined in as well, and so the Department of Housing and Community Development, and we're speaking to other departments throughout the state.
Awesome. So let's say that we bid on this process and it goes through the review process. Well, how do we know who's won a certain project? Well, number one, the firms who bid on these projects are going to get an email and a notification on the project award. But we can also go to the voting summary page to see what came of that project, to see the other organizations that bid on it. So maybe I want to look at this project here because I may have bid on that. Well,
so Andrew, I was just going to add too that we've made this, it's not only easier for the suppliers, the architects and engineers, but it's also much easier for the for the selection board, because all of those applications come in a standard format that makes it easier for them to compare.
Exactly. So when these applications actually go through, the compilation of data kind of is actually creates a PDF for the voting board to review. And what they do is they take those and they mark them up and they begin kind of formalized proceedings around voting on who wins these projects here. And now what I'm on is actually a voting summary of a previous project. And we can see the members and how they voted in terms of the organizations that have been on this process. So we can see that there's some tie voting, but really the winner here is Sam Architecture for this project, and it ranks them accordingly to the overall winners here. Okay. Now I want to talk. Oh,
Just to add, Andrew, so the voting can be done multiple ways. This is the way that Massachusetts wanted to do it, and you can see the tied voting. So there's an extra round of votes that happen, and all of this is configurable to the customer's method of selection.
exactly. So your voting schemas or the way that you decide on these projects can be framed out in a lot of different ways in our platform, or you can leverage really templates that former customers have utilized, like this voting module here, to engage with your projects as well. But really, again, kind of the core concept of as we're going through this project here, or as we're going through these applications, is you can see how easy it is to just pull up that information quickly. I didn't have to make a formalized public records request to get the votes on what had happened. I can access that at any time as an organization and see the summaries of that and see what the voting patterns were. So let's talk a little bit about the community aspect about this. So as kind of organizations have filed in, as projects have gone through this system, what we've done is we've really consolidated all that information into a central location. And what that has allowed us to do is really create a central community database for any organization and the administrative staff to go in and look at other organizations and what they're about. So this is the main database search engine. There's different versions of this. There's a public version that's available to the public. This is the internal version available for organizations who are participating. But really the core concept of this is the ability to really look up other organizations that you might want to engage with in future projects, right? So let's say that I'm bidding on a project and I want an engineering firm, and I might want them to be a WBE. Well, I can look that up, and that's going to list out all the organizations that follow that criteria, right? So you can find those smaller, diverse firms to engage with your organization and have them come with you on the project bidding experience here. Now, what's inside of each organization here? Well, what we can do is we can actually drill down on each organization, and depending on their privacy and their privacy configuration that they've set up for their organization, there might be open evaluations and references. There might be open applications. It depends on the organization and how they frame that. So if I go over to our architectural engineers here, they may have closed off their registration disclosure, their evaluation and references to other organizations. So they have the ability to hide and show their information accordingly. But since we're this organization here, what we can do is we can actually talk about each different aspect here. And the first one I want to talk about is actually what we call the Autocene report. This is an interesting electronic brochure that organizations can actually use and send out and print out and give to other organizations at community events, so that you can give them kind of a one-page idea of what your organization's about. Firms are able to fill out this information. We take on information about their highlights in that, and they're able to upload different pictures and kind of examples of past projects that they've engaged with. There's also our registration disclosure that can be open, our completed applications that we've done. So we may have bid on this project here. Well, at the end of that application process, and we talked a little bit about this with the voting process, what the system actually does is it takes all the information that that person entered for their application, and it combines it together in an easy to read PDF for people to read and vote on. Okay, so we can go in and we can view our past applications that have gone through. We can look at evaluations that have happened and what has went into there and what the scores were. And you can also look at references as well. So again, this is kind of a one-stop shop to where you could view different information aspects about organizations that are participating in this entire application suite here, or this entire solution that we're talking about today. So the last thing that I want to talk about is kind of how we expand these systems out and how we begin to add these out. So we talked a lot about the core aspects of this process. So the initial design conception was around streamlining the public notice, search, and bidding process. But as that's gone through, what the DSB and what the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have done is that they've added to the platform as they've expanded the system. And really the ease of Autocene is the ability to add those extra applications to add value to your solution, right? So newer things that have kind of been added as features to this system that the DSB has done is basically they've centralized all documents to streamline the public information requests system. So if I'm a part of the public, I can actually go in and search out all the different documents that are running through this system without needing to make a formalized request. So if I wanted to look up general correspondence, or maybe meeting minutes, or applications that have gone through on a certain project, I can pull those up accordingly. And I might have to go to a newer project here to list those out. But it allows that person to go through and actually look up different documents without making that formalized request. What does that do? Well, kind of the value adds around that is you no longer need a help desk team to field those requests or pull those documents out, right? So because we digitize things, because we can centralize that information, we can have that at the hands of the person who needs it right away.
You know, Andrew, one thing that we didn't touch on is reporting and how important reporting is. And I know that the DSB doesn't have an extensive list of reports, but you might want to talk about how it is that every piece of data that's entered is captured and available for reporting.
Yeah, definitely. So inherently, as the Autocene system is rolled out, say at your organization, whatever that application is, it's going to record that information as it moves and as it touches certain people or as it's engaged with. Because we can do that, we can actually generate reports that meet certain criteria that you're looking for, that you'd probably regularly pull a CSV or ask a SQL database operator to pull for you, or something that you would have to access maybe 4 or 5 different solutions to combine that data. Well, we've talked a lot about that centralization of data throughout this entire presentation, but what we can really do is, because that data is centralized, we can begin to formulate metrics of reporting that we didn't have access to before. So Kirk talked a little bit about it. How do we know that the increased applications have happened because the process is easier? Well, we can measure that based on past years and applications to applications that we're doing through the system. How do we know that diverse firms are now engaging more? Well, because each different organization has categories around their diversity status, we can see which organizations are winning bids or actually participating in the bidding process. So you can really expand your KPI, your kind of performance indicators throughout the Autocene system to really get the information that you wouldn't normally have access to.
Great, thank you.
Last thing that I want to talk about is kind of administration tools. There's different levels of tools that are throughout at least this solution. From a firm level here, there's privacy controls, there's user controls as well. So you can control users that are inside your organization. Again, we talk about that profiling, right? So the ability to have different hierarchies of profiles. There are also administration admin controls as well. We'll just log in as an administrator here on the development environment. I can go in and I can go into the administration controls of administrator over here as well. So if I wanted to post, say, a new public record, I can do that. Or if I wanted to add new users through administration dashboard, I can engage with the different aspects of what an administration person does in that case. So before I close out the presentation today, of course, if there's any questions in chat, don't hesitate to ask. Kirk, is there any other aspects that you want to speak to before we close out for today?
No, Andrew, I think you covered it pretty well. And so we'd love to capture any other questions. Please just go ahead and reach out to Andrew or I. And we're looking forward to our next webinar, which is, when is that one? Is that another next week or the week after?
I think it's slated for the 9th of December. We're going to be talking about Apprentice program management. So your organization might have apprentices. You might need to track their hours and their engagement with your organization. Well, how can you offer that? We're going to be talking a lot about that and kind of how the city of Tacoma went through that process.
Great. All right, then I think we can call in the morning.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for visiting us today. We hope to see you on the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.